Alright, good morning ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another day. Unfortunately, there's nothing, no, there's nothing unfortunate about it. There's just nothing to say. But today's shorter day, so as you know, that's pretty easy. Yesterday we ate half the food already, so today's just gonna be less. My bad. But caught by the 20-minute thing again. It's pretty noisy after me, if you ask me. Same. Except this one's slightly higher. I think it's because when I failed to catch the 20-minute thing, it registered more. Surprisingly, golden half an hour is like awful. Seems like that spot's compromised. That one over there is as well. Dumbbells are occupied. Okay, so we're gonna change it up a bit. So it seems like our usuals are a bit occupied, so we're gonna have to find a alternative. I guess we'll start with the goat then. Yeah, there's no other options. That's okay. That's just golden half an hour for you. There's not even. I wonder. It's just all clustered over there. I didn't even say anything today. What about the ones in? There's nothing to talk about. No sound barrier. Golden half an hour has been just. It's completely different to yesterday, right? Yesterday was just basically two people. Now it's like five or six, and they're all clustered over here in the weights. Over. There's not much to talk about today. Yeah, nothing to really say. I guess a few comments are Primal Fear is complete, can't play anymore, and Valorant sucks, so we uninstalled it again. And Overwatch is a filler game, so we should probably pause it again. And yeah, we're trying out No Man's Sky, which was actually pretty good last night, so I guess today we'll look forward to continuing that series. And besides that though, that's about it. Ain't nothing else. That's literally about it. So no filler games, just gonna be No Man's Sky story and see how it goes. No Man's Sky is kind of like Elite Dangerous, so yeah. I'm gonna have to do a slow video today. Yep, yes, there's just nothing to say. Golden half an hour is actually so dull. I mean, no, not dull, bro. It's just like, whatever. I mean, all is done and everything, but there's no place to really. All knows that the Alpha 3 regime and dips and pull-ups are actually getting annoying. Well, not annoying, but it's just become. I think it's just become like more of a gotta just get it done and over with. Someone's headphones are here. I'm just gonna put it on the next. Oh, Sennheiser. I was gonna put it at the staff's desk. Yeah, golden half an hour just isn't. It's just yeah. Anyways, we could do this. We haven't done this in a while. The hanging leg raise. Are we still good? Oh, right, my hands are. Grip strength is just not good enough to hold my weight for that long. I can barely hold this thing. Nah, it's my grip that's giving out. My grip's giving out. Oh well. Nah, it's literally just my grip. Whatever. We're basically done anyways. So, alright, that's you. That's basically it. I'm gonna quickly check the weight though, but don't think it really does anything. 67.6. Obviously, I can't actually show the camera because, again, it's occupied, right? Someone's in the bathroom, so I can't really put the tripod. Whatever. doesn't matter. So yeah, is what it is. Yesterday, the golden half an hour was good, but today there was like multiple no sound barriers, very clustered. There's just no point in talking anyway. Yeah, so I'll see you guys next time, right? Yeah.
What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. All right, look at this. Let's Read has uploaded a new video 21 hours ago. Fire lookouts share their most disturbing stories. Lock in. It looks good. Yo, he finally timestamped it for once. W mans. It's very hot today. Oh no, not hot. It's very hot in this room. Studio. Lock in. All right, see what he's cooking today.
So I've been a firefighter for 30 years now. These days now I work as a senior position in the regular fire service, but in my youth I was based out near Yoho National Forest and fought fires for the Canadian Forest Service. Now I signed on for 2 years back in '77 purely for a change of scenery and a new
77. 1977? Goddamn.
challenge, and I liked it so much out there that I extended my stay until summer's end in 1980. They call
1980.
that region the Kootenays, and while they're covered in snow from November until March and damp as hell almost all other times, the summers out there get really, really hot some years. All the pine needles dry out and become crisp and kindling, and the cones expand too, pushing out all that flammable sap that makes them all sticky. And then all it takes is one little spark, and the whole damn forest is in jeopardy. Now, I've been on a couple of attack crews by the summer of '79, meaning I've had plenty of experience humping hose packs and fire axes up ridges, and I've done plenty of learning from the old-timers who'd probably breathed more ash than most smokers.
Didn't I hear that if forests are so flammable, it's supposed to burn? I feel like I've heard that before, right? I feel like I've heard that story where like forests that are like susceptible to being on fire are supposed to burn, right? Like forests that are meant to be on fire. Like sometimes like a forest fire is like actually needed. Like sometimes some forests actually need like a forest fire. Like this. Forest fire.
Throughout the summer, the dry lodgepole pines have become like a tinderbox, and lightning has struck the match.
Remember, if you're in a horror story or horror situation, burn the forest down with you. GG. You get everyone. But it takes a while for that kind of like this strength of fire. It takes a while to actually like ignite. You need to be really, really hot.
The worst wildfires will burn for weeks. In 1988, a third of Yellowstone burnt in a single summer.
But I thought, yeah, forests are supposed to be on fire, no? Like it's just part of the nature. Because like they have so much kindling and like pine cones, right? It's like they're begging to be set on fire.
Animals that depend on these forests will starve this winter.
That's just how it is. Because it's just a balance, right?
But Yellowstone itself has a longer perspective.
Like sometimes forest fires are needed.
Ashes fertilize the soil, and fire opens it up to sunlight.
it's kind of like rain, right? It's like sometimes you need a flood. I mean, sure, sometimes a flood might be devastating, but sometimes the place needs a flood, you know? Sometimes it just needs an earthquake. Sometimes it is what it is, right? You can't really, yeah, it's straight up it is what it is. So sometimes you need a forest fire, you know? Balance. Everything's got a balance.
As the forests regenerate, new life finds opportunity. In August, fledgling hummingbirds gorge in fields of fireweed that have risen from the forest's ashes. For them, the summer is already nearly over.
Wait, that's not the right video. I swear it was like a video.
Once upon a time, a shopper named Alicia.
Shut up. Why are you giving me an ad when I'm not even looking at the video? Are you stupid? How decades of stopping forest fires made them worse. Really? No, I'm pretty sure there's a video where it's like, you know, they're supposed to burn. Like some forest fires, no, some forests actually need to burn. Why the giant needs, like, yeah. Oh well, let's continue the story. My bad.
We were based in this little town called Field, British Columbia, inside the Kicking Horse River Valley, and while sometimes we could get kinda samey in a town with less than 200 people in it, it sure was beautiful. We were surrounded by endless pine forests and snow-peaked mountains. I mean, you couldn't move for picturesque, but in the high summer and the deep winter, Mother Nature could be a real bitch when she wanted to. And it was no different in the summer of '79 when a freak lightning storm hit the forest. We'd been watching the pressure gauge rise for a couple of days already, so it didn't take us completely by surprise. But when a storm finally broke, it wasn't what we were expecting at all. Instead of a downpour with a few infrequent strikes, we got a bout of what we call dry lightning. Now, dry lightning occurs only at the hottest part of the summer because what most often causes it is weather so warm that it literally evaporates what little rain falls from the storm clouds. Then, couple this with an unusually large number of strikes at a time when the entire forest was little more than a giant tinderbox, and you had a recipe for disaster. Mother Nature's fury was on full display that afternoon, as bolt after bolt hit the dry forest. They send sparks into the air when they get hit, then burn from the inside out. Not that I saw any strikes that day, I was too far away. We soon got the call and we were soon prepping to move. There was just one problem. The storm had fried the park warden's radios, meaning that there was no talking with anyone except their HQ in Banff. Now, I was told the wind and static was so bad that all the relays had either been knocked down or fried. But since we had a tower of our own, we were able to get up there and take a look around for smoke. I prayed we'd get lucky, but I guess God wasn't looking our way that day because before long, we saw one and then two stacks of smoke coming up. One near Emerald Lake and then another over by the Burgess Shale side. And by the time the evac and firefighting plan had been put together, we had reports of 3 new fires making a total of 5. And then with the strong winds, the risk of spot fires sparking all around the strikes was scarily high considering the sheer number of cases we were dealing with. All in all, the park was lighting up like a freaking Christmas tree, and then since we were prepped, all we had to do was sit tight and wait for orders. The boss had turned the map room into a kind of conference center, and in coordination with the guys over in Banff, we were trying to figure out exactly where the strikes had occurred so we could best place our people. He was chain-smoking, cussing up a storm in there, and then suddenly, we were finally needed. He called us into the room, pointed to a spot on his map out near the Otter Tail, and told us that there was a fire lookout there that needed evac. Based on where the strikes had hit, 2 separate fires had the chance to link up and cut the lookout off. And then if it burned through the whole area, then, well, I'm sure I don't need to tell you what had happened to the poor SOB stationed there. Once the briefing was completed, our heli pilot gave me the nod.
Okay, interesting. I mean, wouldn't the people in the tower just move themselves? It's not like they're on fire yet.
And then after loading up a couple of extra canteens and some first aid and a small blanket just in case, we lifted off with these thumping rotors and headed over to the Otter Tail.
Oh, they got helicopters and stuff? How far away is... How big is this place? I thought they were about to walk.
Flying over the low valleys, we could see the smoke rising in the distance. These ragged white plumes that turned darker as the trees started to burn. Even as we soared through the air at God knows what speed, the air started to smell like ozone and burnt pitch. The storm wasn't done yet either, and we saw a couple of strikes hit on the way in. But after cresting a ridge, we suddenly saw the tower, standing tall against a backdrop of dark clouds. We circled around before the pilot took the bird down on a strip of flat about 100 yards away from the tower. I honestly figured whoever was in the lookout would be out there waiting for us because a chopper ain't exactly quiet, you know. But it wasn't until we were walking up on the thing that a guy stepped out onto the catwalk. Now he was still buttoning up his shirt as he came down the stairs, and we told him it was time to move. But rather than shift his ass into gear and grab whatever he needed from his tower or cabin, the guy acted almost confused. He'd obviously heard the lightning strikes but hadn't seen the smoke trails. But then the strangest thing was how he didn't seem to know the radios had been fried. I remember one of my team asking him, "Haven't you checked your radio recently?" To which the lookout indignantly replied, "I was taking a nap. Have you tried sleeping out here in the summer without AC?" He made a fair point, I guess. It was hot as hell during that summer. And then rather than argue with little stuff, we just told the guy that we were there to evacuate him and that we needed to get moving ASAP. But then, and this stopped me dead in my tracks, he asked us, "Where are you taking me?" And the response was kind of obvious. And the guy who asked him if he was good to go told him, "Regional headquarters and field. Where the hell else would we take you?"
He's not the real guy. He's a random dude, isn't it? He's not even a lookout person. He's a random civilian, just in the forest. Oh, it must be, right? Yo, maybe a random person murdered the Firewash employee and then took his clothes, dumped his body somewhere, and it's just like, oh, really? That must have been something, right?
And the lookout suggested that we might take him to a hospital to get looked over, but since there was nothing wrong with him, that was never our intention. But again, we were getting held up on small details instead of doing the thing that we needed to do, and so I personally asked if he needed to collect anything from the tower or cabin. But this question seemed to get the strangest reaction of all. Instead of saying, "Oh sure, I'll go grab my stuff," he said that he didn't need anything, to which all three of us were like, "You were staying here for weeks and weeks, but you didn't bring anything remotely precious with you?" But no. The guy had no pictures of family, no old books or journals, no musical instruments, nothing. And I'm telling you, almost half of all fire lookouts take a guitar or a banjo up there, thinking that they're going to head up there an amateur and finish the season playing like Alex Lifeson. But not only did our guy have nothing worth taking with him, but he did not seem excited on the idea of us entering the lookout tower. I personally asked him if he wanted me to run up and grab anything to save on time, and he just is like, No, really. It's a mess up there. You don't have to." It didn't matter to me. We were going for speed after all, but then I mentioned how Raj, the assistant chief, would be pissed if we didn't get him back safe and sound. But that's when the guy said something like, Yeah, Roger's got a real temper on him, huh?" Now, it was only me who heard it, and I guess this requires a little explanation on my part, and so here goes. Now, the assistant chief warden at the time was this Sikh guy named Rajesh, or Raj for short, but the lookout said Roger, as in Roger Rabbit. And this had me asking, who the hell is Roger? And right away I could smell bullcrap because I watched him come up with an answer right there in front of me like, Roger's the guy I talked to when I started. But he clearly just misheard me and was now thinking on his feet, at which point I'm thinking, why lie? Now we're just kind of standing around doing nothing by then, and I remember our chopper pilot calling out, "Come on, let's go already." But then as we're walking back towards the landing zone with the chopper's rotors starting up again, my suspicions about our lookout boiled over. Now he didn't want us entering the lookout. He didn't know
There's a dead body in there.
Raj, who I knew for a fact interviewed all the civilian lookouts, and he didn't seem to know that the Parkside operation was based in field either. At which point I'm asking myself, who the hell is this guy? And so before we loaded up, and purely for my own peace of mind, I asked the guys to hold tight, saying that I dropped something near the tower and that I just needed to grab it before we left. Now immediately our lookout starts looking shifty, to the point that I'm actually saying to him, "Hey, don't worry, buddy. I'm not going in the tower. You can relax." And you know something? He did. He did relax. Well, sort of anyway, and that he went from looking like he was about to chase me down and tackle me to looking like he was content to stay put. But then, the second he realized I lied to him and my foot hit the first step on the way up the tower, I heard, and so loud I heard it over the chopper's engine, "Hey, wait!" from one of my team. I turned to see our lookout sprinting away from the chopper and towards the tree line. My teammates looked confused to the point.
Yeah, he's not a worker. The real employees in there dead, or like GG.
Of being scared, but I knew exactly why he was running. There was something in the watchtower he really didn't want us to see. And while I all but expected it by the time I opened the door of the little cabin atop that watchtower, it didn't make seeing it any easier. Stuffed under the bed, completely naked, and with some kind of cloth or rag shoved in her mouth, was the actual fire lookout. A lady.
What was the lady doing here? What is she? Oh, GG. I knew it. Bro. What is the lady do? What are you doing out here? GG.
Lady named Jean. And I'm pretty sure that even without that thing in her mouth, she wouldn't have been able to make a sound. She'd been beaten and violated for days by the time we found her, and her level of dehydration alone had her on death's door. She had cracked ribs, broken teeth, all kinds of internal bleeding and bruising, and her face was so beat up that I couldn't even recognize her when next we met and all the swelling had finally gone down. It was lucky that we had the chopper ready to go too, because I'm honestly not sure that she'd have survived if we'd had waited for a vehicle to get up there. And trying to carry her would have been a death sentence too, on account of how torn up she was on the inside, I'm sad to say. It was kind of crazy to think about. It was like that lightning storm saved her life. Jean said the man had caught her while she was out on a walk and had been keeping her prisoner at knife point for days after smashing up her radio. But all the while, the atmospheric pressure rising and rising until the sky started cooking up that incredible display of power it showed us. It was like God was furious and told us to do something about it. And while I guess we did it all completely on accident, we ended up scaring the guy off. To me, and aside from all the evil crap he did to her, the worst thing about the guy was how he was happy to let the fires sweep over the area and let it roast that poor girl alive up there. When we asked him if there was anything important up there and he said no, he was talking about a human being, a human life. And of all the reason it sucks that the cops never caught the guy, that's the one which gets to me the most.
Yeah. RIP. You know what I mean? I don't know who would take that job. Yeah, you know? Though that's kind of, yeah. You know what I mean? Is what it is. What can you do about that? I don't know what you can do about that. Humans are, yeah, what, you know? What, yeah, but wow, what can you do about that? It is what it is, alright? That's the straight up, it is what it is. How can you, yeah. Because like, okay, sure, let's face it, the fact that it was a female working the tower, right? But same thing could happen to a man. No joke. Hmm. Yeah, well, you know, because like, okay, radio's dead, right? But there was like a storm as well. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like there's some missing context as well, right? Because like how I thought for fire lookouts, you always radio each tower every day, right? And if she's been kidnapped for that many days, that shouldn't have happened because if her radio broke, right? If the guy smashed up her radio, how can she, like at best, the guy did all that stuff after the like the moment the storm hit, right? Because they would have checked the radio. So when she said that she'd been like attacked for days now, I feel like, but still again, he could, yeah, that's just like, you know, is what it is. Don't know what to say about that story. Is what it is. Yeah. You're out in the forest all by yourself. Matter of fact, why are you by yourself? Huh. At the same time, though, if you're not by yourself and you're with some coworker, it could end up the same situation, you know? You don't know? That is a, yeah, it's just, I don't know what you can say about that. Is what it is. She could have been lightning struck, you know? Next story. Damn. It is what it is, though. Not sure we could do about that one.
Okay, for reference, I'm a 58-year-old woman, but I was 27 during the events I'm about to write about. I hate when people don't make that clear at the start of their story, so I'm leaving this here so everything's easy to picture. Now anyway, I was 27 at the time, and it was the spring of 1994, and my whole life had basically fallen apart. To escape a relationship that turned physically abusive, I
Ah, the math adds up. Wow. Wow. Math adds up. Oh my goodness. Wait, I'm old. What the fuck? Sorry. Wait, I'm actually old. What the hell? Damn. Whatever.
had to leave Seattle, and that meant abandoning my waitressing job in the community college that I was attending. I've been living in Seattle for 6 years at that point, and I loved it there. So leaving it behind, along with all the friends and memories I'd made there, was incredibly upsetting, but I knew I had no choice.
Oh, yo, if I ever took a fire lookout job, I would literally do a daily vlog every day. So like one day if I'm not doing a vlog, come get me because I'm probably dead or something. Oh, that'd be kind of hype for like the first week or month. Daily vlogs. Hey guys, I'm in a fire watch tower. Look at the shit. Look at the forest. Daily logs. Nothing's happened so far. You know? Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
If I stayed, that guy would have killed me, and
What?
that's no exaggeration. I grew up in western Montana, and that's where my mom was still living at the time, so that's where I fled. It was a bittersweet homecoming. Sweet because I hadn't seen Mom in almost a year by that time when I called her, and bitter because I'd returned a failure in my mind. I spent a few days lying in my old bedroom feeling sorry for myself, with Mom bringing me trays of chicken noodle soup like I was some sick kid again. When I was on my feet again, I helped her in the kitchen, we walked our dog together, and then we watched the Golden Girls together until bed. It was great to get to hang out with her, but it was the walks through the bitter roots that somehow proved the best medicine. Seattle's a green city, but it's a city nevertheless, so I guess being back in the country did things for my soul that I never even knew that I needed. Now, while I was home, I arranged to meet up with an old high school friend that I hadn't seen in almost a decade. Mom mentioned that she was around, so I gave her a call and we met for some beers one night. It turns out she was working for the Forest Service as part of a trail crew, and when she told me, I felt this instant flash of, well, let's call it friendly envy. Listening to her talk about working the trails had me hanging on to her every word, and at the time, I remember thinking it sounded like the coolest job ever. And then when I mentioned being super jealous, she told me about a vacancy that she knew up at Lolo National Forest.
Yo, I'm taking that job too. Oh man, let's go. Gonna go adventuring. That doesn't... Okay, well, first of all, in my Gen Z mind, that job sounds... I mean, it depends on the context, right? But I wouldn't mind being in the forest alone if I got my camera and stuff and Wi-Fi. If there ain't no Wi-Fi, I'm cooked. I ain't gonna live there. But if I could like upload daily videos, man, I'll be flooding this channel with me in the watchtower every day. And if I don't upload, that means I'm dead. Come get me or something, right? I mean, look, if you know that you're not gonna, if you know that anything, like, if you know, in your reality you're not allowed to die, then this job pretty chill, right? Like, what is that bear gonna do to me? He can't hurt me. I'm invincible. If I see another human, GG, I'm just getting my camera out and record him. You know? Yeah. It is what it is. 1 second.
Now, long story short, the Forest Service was having trouble keeping this one fire lookout staffed for the summer, and this was in part due to the fact that it was so isolated. There were two ways to get to the log cabin and watchtower that comprised the lookout. It was helicopter or pack mule. And I guess the reality of living up there in seclusion for an extended period gave people a bad case of the willies because while trying to get it staffed that year, the Park Service had 3 different people cancel on them. I mean, I get it. The idea of living on the ass end of nowhere for 3 months with nothing but a radio, a propane fridge, and their own thoughts. I appreciate that's not most people's...
That's basically jail. There's no Wi-Fi. But again, this is like the 1994, so I don't think mobile devices are necessarily a thing yet. Because in like 2010 is like the first... ...2007 was the first iPhone? Yeah, GG. How you gonna get Wi-Fi or anything? There ain't nothing doing at first. That's straight up a jail. Kind of. It depends on the pay as well, right? Honestly, yeah, it depends on the pay and the situation and the context, right? If I was like broke, I'll take that job. Free food, free place to sleep, isolated. Take me to jail. Sounds about right to me.
Idea of a summer well spent. But at the time, I was already disappearing into the woods for hours at a time with a backpack, a book, and a flask full of coffee, so the idea of actually living up in a lookout tower while being paid to watch for smoke felt less like a job and a whole lot more of that medicine that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that sounds like a good deal, right? You're already doing that anyways, but you might as well get paid. Yo, that's... I mean, it depends on the pay, right? But like, free food, free shelter just to isolate yourself for 3 months, bro. Okay, why not? I wouldn't mind taking that. It's like going to jail, but getting paid. And, yeah.
My high school friend.
Well, I'll ignore the fact that the first story happened, but it is what it is. There are the benefits and the down benefits. Like, you could have the first story that could happen to you right now. At the same time, though, the first story of that girl and that random human, same thing had happened. The lightning could just strike directly into the tower and you're dead. Same thing, kinda ish.
And said the fact that I was kind of underqualified wouldn't matter, and the fact that I've been studying forestry in community college would count towards experience, and if I could guarantee I wouldn't back out, she'd put in a good word for me. I told her there was nothing in the world I'd rather do, and that I'd be willing to sign up for the full 3-month stint too, especially if it meant walking away with a pile of cash that I could use to get myself back on my feet. And then a week later, I drove over to the district office to speak with a fire management officer. A few weeks later, I got the call that I was headed to Lolo for 3 months. Then, after a couple of training sessions on how to use a radio, the Osborne Firefinder, and how to read smoke columns, I was good to go. Now, the hard part was the helicopter flight up to the mountain in June, and I still remember the way my stomach dropped after we strapped in.
Okay, I don't think fire watching towers are a thing in today's world, right? I feel like you could just get a drone or something to just scan it. You're good to go. Matter of fact, they probably built like a tower there now. No, hold on. Yeah, I don't think fire lookouts are a thing in today's world, right? I don't... Fire lookout replaced with AI. Yeah, I feel like in today's world, fire lookouts don't exist, right? Because, you know, you got satellites now. You got... You just got a whole bunch of tech that makes it... Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty... I don't think fire lookouts are a thing now. Are they? I feel like not. I feel like it's cheaper to literally just build like a... You know, just a camera tower there. And you literally have it running 24/7. You know? Just... I'm pretty sure they don't have real... Yeah, I don't think they have that anymore. Because, like, technology, I don't think fire lookouts are a thing in today's world. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in a different ecosystem, they still have fire lookouts, but don't think in today's world they'd have it. They'll probably replace that stuff with automation pretty fast. I would.
And took off. It was my first ever helicopter flight, and the one out there was my last, so it was both equally terrifying. But I'll never forget the feeling I got when I spotted the tower and cabin perched on top of that mountaintop. It wasn't much, but to me, it looked like my kingdom for the next 3 months. The pay wasn't anything to write home about, but back then it was $8 an hour plus overtime when fires got going. But I didn't have much in the way of expenses, and honestly, I would have happily paid them for the privilege of being up there and getting away from my old life. Now, I was expected to wake up...
$8 an hour? But you're living there 24 hours? Oh, that's big money right there. You're getting paid to sleep there too.
Before dawn, scan the horizon with the binoculars while the coffee was percolating, and then get ready for another day of, well, really nothing. Aside from calling in the weather every hour, I could do whatever I really wanted. And so there'd be these long afternoons where all I really would do was read, write in my journal, and watch the clouds as they passed through what was otherwise...
Ooh, get a gaming setup too? Man, make some YouTube videos while you're out there? Yo, I'm joking, there's no Wi-Fi. Yeah, dude, yeah, there's no Wi-Fi there anymore. There's no Wi-Fi, so you're just like, there.
A clear blue sky. Some days it was boring enough to drive a person nuts, and I could see why a person needed a certain level of mental fortitude to last even a month up there, doing the same thing over and over, day
That sounds like Earthlogs right there, doing the same thing over and over.
In and day out.
Yep, discipline.
But other days, especially during things like distant lightning storms, it was quite a rush knowing me and the other lookouts were like the tip of the spear when it came to keeping the whole forest from turning to ash. Now, it was a big adjustment at first, even for someone like me who'd grown up in the country, but after 2 weeks, this Brush Mountain lookout started to feel like home. And I say home, but I was obviously still missing a bunch of conveniences and amenities. But being up there was every part as good for me as I figured it would, and rather than boredom, all I felt was peace. At least until one morning when I stepped out of the cabin to find a dead rabbit lying on the ground. Now, it wasn't lying between the cabin and the lookout tower. It wasn't even a few feet away. It was right there outside the door, like it had been placed there deliberately.
GG, another
Now,
humans
I went
nearby.
straight to the tower, completed my morning check-in on the radio, then immediately mentioned the rabbit to a forest ranger that I called Hank, but whose real name will remain omitted for reasons that'll become obvious. Lolo's got a lot of predators roaming around. There's black and even grizzly bears, timber wolves that hunt in packs, and mountain lions that hunt alone. They also got things like wolverines, lynx, and bobcats in the high elevation forests where I was, along with the smaller predators like coyotes, foxes, and various birds of prey. Now my point is, just about any of these animals might have been walking through the lookout when they stopped at my door, smelled a human, and then fled, knowing that they'd be faster if they just
How would the animals walk up all those stairs? What?
dropped their late-night snack.
What?
And that's what Hank said anyway, and I didn't need to be an expert for the explanation to make sense to me. And so instead of freaking out and getting all paranoid, I just tossed that rabbit into the brush and hoped that its owner might return later. And exactly 10 days go by, and I know that because I have this all down in my journal, when another dead rabbit appears outside my cabin. Now, when I mentioned it to Hank on the radio, he sounded kind of surprised, and while he made a joke about how I'd been adopted by a mountain lion, he promised to hitch a ride on the next supply run so he could personally take a look around. Now, I can't lie. I kind of like the idea that some mountain lion, in its confusion as to why I was out there, all alone in the middle of nowhere, had decided to try and feed me, like some house cat. But unfortunately, that's not at all what was happening, as Ranger Hank discovered when he came to visit. Now, like I said, he flew in on the resupply helicopter at the end of month 1, and by then, I'd found a total of 4 rabbits outside my cabin,
Huh?
1 for each week I'd been there. We unloaded the helicopter, which was mostly cases of water, which were heavy as heck, and then once we were done, Hank told the pilot to take 5 while we took a walk around the area. Now, he was looking for animal tracks, and he found plenty, including those of a mountain lion, but after looping around, and as we're walking back to the lookout via the north side, he stops dead in his tracks while looking down at the ground. Right away, this made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because I literally watched his expression go from carefree to fearful as he's looking at the dirt.
It's not a human.
And even though the possibility flashed through my mind, hearing him say it was just devastating.
Not a humans yet.
Because after kneeling and tracing a finger around the edge of a track I could barely see, he told me it was human.
Yeah, GG.
I guess half the reason I couldn't see it at first was because I was looking at a boot print. But after he carefully pointed out where it was and I joined him in kneeling, I started to see it too. It was a footprint, not a boot print, as in it had been caused by someone walking barefoot, not by someone walking in footwear, which, for obvious reasons, made it even more disconcerting.
Yeah, GG.
Hank felt it too, at least once I'd confirmed that it wasn't me that had been walking barefoot among the trees.
Yep.
And it was then that talk turned to firearms, or more specifically, how I didn't have one. Now, I had a big can of bear spray with me, and I've been told a firearm wasn't essential since the grizzlies don't start turning really aggressive until fall,
human, though.
very late in the
You're
summer.
gonna need
at
one
the
for a human,
earliest,
bro.
at which point I'd be gone. And while bear mace would sure work fine if I hit a person with it, I knew that wasn't enough, and so did Hank. Especially not when it came to someone who walked barefoot in the woods and left dead rabbits outside the cabins of lone women.
GG.
And this is where I tell you why Hank is called Hank here and not his real name, because what he did next was a massive breach of protocol and could have quite easily got him severely reprimanded or even fired. But after asking if I knew how to use one, and quite possibly against his better judgment, he gave me his firearm.
Yo, W Hanks right there. Oh my goodness. Yo, W mans. Just straight up, woman's in danger, have the gun. Good luck. Yo. Unless Hank... Oh my god, how long is the story? Yo, the story is so long. I'm gonna have to end it there, guys. There's no way. There's no way. 20... 18. No, I'm gonna have to pause it. I'm gonna have to pause it here, guys. There's no way. There's no way we can do it today. No way. No way. No way. We'll continue next time, right? 2035, and context is Hank gave her a gun. W man's. Oh, I'm just gonna maybe bite my words off that. Yo, okay, well, yeah, we'll have to look at it next time, right? I'm gonna leave you guys in the cliffhanger. Leave it for myself as well, but damn. It's pretty good so far. Alright. Till next time, bye-bye.